Na na na.
Yeah.
What's good, y'all? Welcome to the birth of Bout That Action. I'm your host, Shaquan, and let's talk about something close to my heart and has kept me sane during these crazy COVID times, and that is college football. I'm going to be catching you guys up on headlines and news that have been happening in college football in the past 7 weeks and prepare you guys for what is to come this weekend. As we know, not everyone has been playing football, but this week, one of the Power 5 conferences returns to play since last year, and they are hungry. Trust me, I know. I've seen it all over Twitter, and leading them is, of course, the Ohio State University Buckeyes. Set them up so late. Let's see how the top 25 teams have panned out so far with some notable upsets. So in week 2, I saw that number 23 Iowa State lost 31-14 to the Louisiana Raisin Cajuns. Shout out to them. I know they just got a coach, Billy Napier. He used to be a former coach at Bama, and you know how I am with them. Roll Tide. Week 3, number 23 Appalachian State lost to Marshall. But I want y'all to keep in mind that Marshall is currently 4-0 on the season and currently ranked number 22. They have also won all their games by at least 13 points. So, in my mind, is this a upset or is Marshall really just good and we haven't been giving them props? I have no idea. Next week, number 6 LSU losing to Mississippi State 38-35 in a nail biter. Man, LSU losing as the defending national champions at home to Mississippi State. Oof. LSU played without 2 of their starters, and one of them included All-American cornerback Derek Stingley, who we all know is a game changer on the opposite side of the field for opposing QBs. But I want to put out that Mississippi's new quarterback, KJ Costello, that guy had an impressive run that game. 623 yards, 5 touchdowns, breaking SEC records against the reigning national champions. That was not something I was expecting week 1. But, that is a way to start off the Mike Leach era. Next week, number 9, Texas, losing to TCU 33-31. I don't know, man. I see a lot of hype about Texas every year. I just don't believe in the Big 12 that much. Every year, I feel like there's just so many teams that are supposedly back, but that's just me. Also having that same week, number 11 UCF losing to Tulsa, which to me was very impressive because Tulsa snaps UCF's 21-game home win streak. That is insane. Winning 21 games at home in a row, that's pretty impressive. But in that same week, we also had a couple more upsets. We had number 16 Mississippi State, the team that just beat LSU, losing to Arkansas 21-14. Oklahoma, number 18, also lost to Iowa State 37-30. Number 24 Pittsburgh, losing to NC State 30-29. Number 25 Memphis, losing to SMU 30-27. Number 4 Florida, losing to number 21 Texas A&M 41-38 in a nail biter. And then the week after that, number 22 Texas losing to Oklahoma 53-45. And the only reason why I put this as an upset is because Texas is currently ranked 22 at that point in time. Oklahoma wasn't. They were not ranked. And to be fair, watching that game was very fun. They pushed it to 4 overtimes, and they just really made it competitive. But if Texas is supposedly back, that's the game they need to win, especially against an unranked opponent. The week after that, number 21 Louisiana Raisin Cajuns losing to Coastal Carolina. Now, keep in mind, Coastal Carolina is ranked in the top 25 now, but I really thought that was a game that Louisiana needed to win just to make sure that they ensure themselves in the top 25. But unfortunately, they couldn't not get it done. Number 5, North Carolina, losing to Florida State 31-28. I just got to say, that game, when I saw it, towards the end, everyone saw that drop on 4th down. You got to make that play. But I understand, tensions are high, nerves are running. It happens, It happens to the best of us. Even if that wasn't a must-win situation, people drop the ball all the time. But that's just one you got to make. Now this one, I'm pretty happy about this one. Number 15, Auburn, losing to South Carolina 30-22. I believe Bo Nix threw 5 picks that game. Oh my. And also number 18, Tennessee, losing to Kentucky 34-7. This is a big win for Kentucky because this is the first time that Kentucky has beaten Tennessee since the Great Depression, which is a very, very long time ago. Before I was born, before my parents were born, probably before your grandparents were born. That is huge, man. That is huge. All right, so I want to talk about the top 25 teams coming right now in the AP poll heading into Week 8. And I want you to keep in mind some of these teams have 0 records because obviously they haven't played. Their conference hasn't allowed them to play. They're waiting for their turn. Some conferences have multiple games. Some teams in the same conference might have less games. It's all due to COVID. Nobody has had a perfect schedule yet. But here we go. At number 1, this is no surprise, Clemson is sitting there at the top of the throne, just blowing out Georgia Tech the week before. They are sitting perfect at 5-0. Right behind them on their tail, number 2, Alabama, 4-0, just dismantling number 3, Georgia, in the week before. However, at number 3, Notre Dame gets the spot after a very close 12-7 game against Louisville. Them at 3, I guess, but oof, man. When Ohio State plays this week against Nebraska, Ohio State will claim that back from Notre Dame, trust me. Number 6, I forgot to mention Ohio State is at number 5. Number 6 is Oklahoma State. They are 3-0. Number 7, Texas A&M, 3-1, with their notable loss being to Alabama. Number 8, Penn State. They have not played a game. Number 9, Cincinnati. Now, this was kind of surprising to me. Cincinnati has looked pretty well. So, them being the top 10, I was like, hey, this is not a bad idea. They are sitting 3-0. Number 10 is Florida, and they are 2-1. They recently had their game postponed due to COVID. I believe it was Dan Mullen and his wife. Something like that. I couldn't honestly tell you. Florida also had a bunch of players tested, and they all tested positive. So hopefully they can control what's going on down there because I want the SEC to be as competitive as it can be. Number 11, Miami, 4-1. Not bad. They had a couple games where I watched. I didn't watch all of them, but a couple games where I was watching, and I was kind of confused what they were doing. But they've won 4 games. They only lost 1. So them sitting at 11 is not horrible. Number 12 is BYU, 5-0. They're not doing anything atrocious, They technically have a Heisman contender in Zach Wilson as their quarterback. He's ranked number 2 in the Heisman rankings right now, but they're playing pretty well. 5-0 is really good. Be a really good spot to be at in this season, point in time in the season. Number 13, Oregon, 0-0. Pac-12 is still waiting for their turn. Number 14, North Carolina. They were ranked 5th, lost their spot by 9 spots after the upset by Florida State. So now they're sitting at 3-1. Number 15, Wisconsin, 0-0, waiting for their shot this weekend. And then we have at number 16, SMU, Southern Methodist University, sitting 5-0 after a couple good games. Just doing their thing, SMU every year, I think, are always talented. They're not the best team on paper, but when I see them play, they're fun to watch, man. They are fun to watch. Number 17, Iowa State. They had an upset this year, and then they had another game where they just lost. So, 3-1 on the season at number 17. It's not too bad. Number 18, Michigan, 0-0, obviously waiting for their shot. Number 19, Virginia Tech. They are sitting 3-1. Kansas State, they are sitting 3-1 at number 20. Number 21 is Minnesota, 0-0, Big Ten. Number 22 is Marshall, like I said earlier, currently 4-0 on the season. I'm actually excited to see what Marshall has this season because they are not looking too shabby. Number 23 is NC State, sitting at 4-1. I think that's pretty impressive for NC State. I didn't expect them to do anything crazy in the ACC, but you never know. They can do something crazy. Number 24 is USC, 0-0. And number 25 is Coastal Carolina, sitting at 4-0. Now, I do have a note. I've noticed USC is ranked 24 and Oregon is ranked 13. And they are the only two teams in the Pac-12 that are in the top 25. And with the Pac-12 only having two teams in the top 25, and with them playing their games so late into the year, they have a schedule of 7 games for each team. It's going to make it very hard for either USC or Oregon to make a case to play in the playoffs. For me, the only way I can see them playing in the playoffs is like they dominate all their opponents, and then the people ahead of them just lose. It's very, very hard to make a case for 7 games. The Big Ten, they're only playing 8 games, and I think that case is very hard. Obviously, you have guys like Ohio State and like Penn State maybe that have shown that they can compete. However, to me, like if you're not playing that full 10-game schedule, it's kind of hard. But OSU, like the Big Ten and them, have a better shot of making the playoffs than the Pac-12. I'm not counting them out, but it's going to be very difficult for the Pac-12 to make a case for a team in the playoffs. So, heading into Week 8, I have some predictions for some teams. I chose some of the games that most people would pay attention to. I didn't choose any of the small schools. I tried to choose a variety of schools. Of course, I tried to choose all the ranked games. And this is just in order of like when they're going to be played this upcoming Saturday from like noon to like 8. So at 1, the first game is going to be number 1 Clemson versus Syracuse. This is a no-brainer. I'm going to choose Clemson. If you choose Syracuse, you must be confused. All right, number 5 OSU versus Nebraska. Now this is a huge game. Because Nebraska is the team that really pushed heavy. Not saying OSU didn't, but Nebraska really pushed heavy to play football this fall against the Big Ten. And the Big Ten just said, expect OSU to cruise to the playoffs, but man, Nebraska really got hammered with that one. This is going to be a pretty big game, though, for all you OSU fans. 2 big guys returning to the team. They're both redshirt juniors, cornerback Sean Wade, and then offensive guard Wyatt Davis. I believe those 2 guys were going to go pro, opted out potentially due to COVID and or debating on going to the draft at some point. But they are expected to be first, second round talent in the draft next year. So it's big pickup for Ohio State. The next game is number 23 NC State versus number 14 North Carolina. This is my first upset I have. Number 14 North Carolina losing to Florida State was pretty big to me, just because Florida State has not looked impressive at all. And for Florida State to come in and play with a chip on their shoulder against North Carolina, that's kind of got to be a low blow. So I have NC State winning that one. However, it would not shock me if North Carolina won. I just believe that this game is going to be an upset. So I believe North Carolina will take back-to-back L's. But they are building something right now. I know recruiting-wise they were doing pretty well. So this is nothing crazy. I believe North Carolina will be good in the future. But this week, I think there will be an upset. Could be wrong, though. Another one, number 20, Kansas State versus Kansas. A little rivalry going on. Obviously, I have Kansas State winning. Kansas is just abysmal. With Les Miles going on down there, I still don't think that program's ready to function. Another one this week, number 25, Coastal Carolina versus Georgia Southern. I have Coastal Carolina winning this one. I don't think Georgia Southern is too impressive. Coastal Carolina is doing their thing. You know, I gotta take the team that's right in the hot seat. So, this one, Auburn versus Ole Miss, both coming off of losses, I believe. Auburn losing just to South Carolina, you know, that one's got to hurt. Ole Miss, just back-to-back weeks where they have something going and then they don't, you know. But I have Auburn winning this one. I don't think Ole Miss defensively is talented enough. They don't have the recruiting yet. Lane Kiffin is working on something special in Ole Miss for sure. But that's just how I see it. Oklahoma versus TCU. Although both these teams have been lackluster, I got to go with Oklahoma only because I believe in Spencer Rattler to an extent. He makes some questionable decisions on the field, but you know his skill is there. He was a top-ranked quarterback coming out of high school for a reason. Oklahoma doesn't really have anything to be worried about. They just got to find their groove and be consistent. You know, that's about it right now. Just finding their groove and being consistent. Just kind of rebuilding, making sure they get their confidence back. The next game, Florida State versus Louisville. I have Florida State winning that one. Louisville is just trash. I cannot believe that Notre Dame kept it within 5, honestly. 12-7. Oh, my. The next game, Michigan State versus Rutgers. I have Michigan State winning that one. I don't even have to just elaborate on that one. We all know what type of program Rutgers is. Number 22, Marshall versus FAU. Marshall has been playing, like I said, really well, winning by 2 scores or more, undefeated. I got Marshall in that one against FAU. This week is also the third Saturday in October. So you know that means it's Alabama versus Tennessee. This isn't even going to be close. I have Alabama blowing out Tennessee again. Number 3, Notre Dame versus Pittsburgh this week. I have Notre Dame winning that one. Hopefully Ian Book can play a lot more consistently. The run game isn't horrible, but Ian Book's got to start doing his thing. This is a pretty big game now. I believe this is the second ranked versus ranked game. Number 17, Iowa State versus number 6, Oklahoma State. And Oklahoma State is undefeated right now. So this is a pretty big game. Hopefully, I have Oklahoma State winning it. But like I said, anybody could really win. Iowa State has shown that they can beat anybody in terms of on their schedule. They just got to make it happen against Oklahoma State to win. But I have Oklahoma State winning that one. Another Big Ten game coming up. Number 8, Penn State versus Indiana. I have Penn State winning this one. I wouldn't be surprised if Indiana won, though. Would not be surprised. Number 19, Virginia Tech versus Wake Forest. This is a no-brainer. I don't even know one person on Wake Forest that has caught my eye yet, but I have Virginia Tech winning this one. Now unranked Texas versus Baylor. I have Texas winning. Sam Ehlinger isn't a horrible QB. Tom Herman ain't trash. They're just not clicking. They're not the same old Texas. They're still in rebuilding. When I hear Texas is back, I don't really know if I believe the hype just because how inconsistent they are, but it is what it is. Another Big Ten game, Iowa versus Purdue. Purdue has shown that they can hang with anybody. I still think Iowa's going to win. And what's crazy is both of these teams in the past few years have had huge blowout upset wins against Ohio State. I just think Iowa's a more textbook team. They have a great offensive line every year. You know, they ground and pound the ball every year. I just have Iowa winning that game. Kentucky versus Missouri. Kentucky coming off of a huge win. But I still think Missouri is going to win that game. Missouri didn't look too bad over the few weeks that we've seen them play. West Virginia versus Texas Tech. I have West Virginia winning that one. Texas Tech has been lackluster this season. It's just not been too close. South Carolina versus LSU. This is going to be a big one because South Carolina just beat Auburn, and LSU is kind of on the fence. LSU is good. We know they're a good team. They have one of the best rosters in college football. They just, got to get it together. But I have LSU winning that game. Another Big Ten matchup, both ranked teams. Number 18, Michigan versus number 21, Minnesota. If we're being honest here, I don't think Michigan's winning this game. Even though they're ranked higher, I have Minnesota winning. Minnesota is an underrated team every year. They're not the greatest team, but when they go into a game, they play with a lot of heart. I've seen it happen. And they can surprise their opponents. And I don't think Michigan is as good as they are. I don't know if it's Jim Harbaugh. I don't know if it's the talent they're recruiting. They get great players every year. It's just not clicking. So, I don't know. Next game, Maryland versus Northwestern. I have Maryland winning that one. They have a lot of firepower. They have great coaching. They're in rebuilding mode, but, they have a lot of potential. And I like what I see from Maryland. Number 11, Miami versus Virginia. I have Miami winning that one. Number 9, Cincinnati versus number 16, SMU. This is going to be a big game for all the smaller schools that are not in the Power 5, but, are ranked respectably. I have Cincinnati winning this one. I have them only because Cincinnati has just looked too consistent, Like, they look the par. Number 12, BYU versus Texas State. This is going to be BYU. So those are all of my predictions. Let me know what you think I got right or wrong. Obviously, I'll come back to this list following this weekend to see what I had right and what I had wrong. But I think those are the teams that are going to win. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you would change, who you think is going to win on any of those games. So now I want to get to the top 5 Heisman frontrunners heading into Week 8, and this is thanks to Newsweek.com. At number 1 is Trevor Lawrence, QB from Clemson, and I'll tell you a little bit about their stats. So right now I have number 1 at the Heisman frontrunner is Trevor Lawrence. He has attempted 148 passes and completed 108 of them for a 73% completion, with 1,544 yards, 15 touchdowns, 1 interception. He has 54 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns. Number 2 is Zach Wilson. He's a QB, BYU. He has attempted 136 passes, completed 107 of them for a 79% completion, with 1,641 yards, 12 touchdowns, 1 interception, 100 rushing yards, and 6 rushing touchdowns. Number 3 is Mac Jones. He has attempted 115 passes, completed 90 of them for a 78% completion, with 1,518 yards, 12 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. His rushing stats aren't too hot, negative 17 yards rushing and no touchdowns, but offensively, Alabama's been playing pretty well, so I'm not too worried about it. They don't use Mac Jones as a runner. They got running backs for that. At number 4, Dylan Gabriel, QB, UCF. He has attempted 188 passes and completed 122 of them for a 65% completion. He has 1,756 yards, 14 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 108 yards rushing, and 1 rushing touchdown. 5th and final on the Heisman frontrunners is Kyle Trask, quarterback, Florida. He has attempted 103 passes, completed 74 of them with a 72% completion, 996 yards passing with 4 touchdowns and 1 interceptions. He has 28 yards rushing and no rushing touchdowns. And you got to keep in mind his numbers are a little bit lower just because he hasn't played the 4 or 5 games that the other teams have played. He's only played in 3 games. So those stats aren't horrible. Everybody here on this list, except for Dylan Gabriel, above 70% completion, which is really good. Some guys almost even 80% completion, which is insane. And everybody here, 1 or 2 interceptions. And if I'm not mistaken, some of their interceptions are, not really their fault. But they're playing pretty well. So these are your top 5 Heisman runners right now. All quarterbacks, all playing well. So a few last notes. So for all the Pac-12 fans, your guys' season will be starting back up November 7th, and it will end the weekend of December 18th through the 19th, and that will be the Pac-12 championship. So don't worry, Pac-12 fans. I know the Big Ten starting this weekend. You guys are starting November 7th, which is only a few weeks away. So get ready for that. I guess the last thing I want to do is I want to interact with the fans. I want you guys to comment down below in the chat who's your favorite college football team, who you guys are rooting for the season. That way I know who the more popular college teams are in terms of who's watching my channel. That way I can interact with you guys that way. If you guys have any topics or anything that you think I could improve on, please let me know in the comments. I'm always trying to get better. I take constructive criticism well. As long as you guys aren't just like bashing me, I don't personally care if you bash me, but that's the constructive criticism is the best way to improve. So if you guys have any of that for me, go ahead, leave it down in the comments. Comment your favorite team. If there's any of the predictions that you think I got wrong, let me know. who you think the Heisman winner is going to be. Just let me know, man. Just interact in the comment section below. I want to thank you guys for turning into my first ever podcast about that action. This is an idea I've had for a while now. With COVID going on, I've just been so lazy. I mentally not been into it, but I said, let's start it down. Let's get it going. So this is my first podcast ever. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I want to talk about this channel a bit more. So this channel is going to be more about more than just sports, you know. I love sports. I'll talk about college football. I'll talk about NFL. I'll talk about the NBA. Maybe a little bit about college basketball. I don't really follow it too much, but those are the three main sports I care about the most on this planet, and we're going to talk about them. We're also going to talk about comedy, you know, jokes, memes, anything like that. We're going to have fun. I'm going to have people on here at the show, a bunch of guests. They're going to range from, like, educators, people that are really into sports, like just sports fans in general, maybe some coaches, some people in the U.S. military. This is going to be a sports comedy life channel in terms of podcast, so it'll be more than just sports. I'll probably have some stuff about gaming. I'm a pretty big fan of gaming, so just let me know what you guys want me to talk about, any topics you guys have. You can follow me on Twitter at capital BTA_podcast. There I'll be tweeting when I post new content, interacting with you guys. If you have any ideas that you want to shoot towards me, that you want to leave under the comment, you can tweet at me. I'll try my best to interact with you guys. But like I said, I want to thank you guys very much for tuning into the very first podcast I've ever made. Next video, I will have a face cam and a different topic. Stay safe and stay blessed. Na na na.